Our next presenter is Jane Smith. Jane grew up in a monolingual English-speaking family in Western New York. She's been teaching French language and linguistics at the University of Maine, where she currently serves as chair of Department of Modern Languages and Classics since 1994. She'll be speaking about her personal experience with French and how it has provided access to the humanities, the fine arts, and the cultures of many communities. Please welcome Jane.
When I was in 10th grade, I learned that French actually hadn't been made up and stuck in a textbook for me to learn. And I've been in love with it ever since. I'd like to share with you some of the doors that have been opened for me because I learned French. As an undergrad in Paris, I was able to much better appreciate the beauty of Le Penseur and Le Baiser in Sunday afternoon in Auguste Rodin's museum. This is an ancient dolmen, a Celtic burial site in western France, and of course it dates from the prehistoric period, so I was much more appreciative of the ancient history. It's called Gargantua's Table. If I had never studied French, I never would have been able to understand the humor behind that had I not read Rabelais' Gargantua. After a stint in grad school, I was able to land a job in a small Swiss ski resort, and I was occasionally asked to don traditional garb and serve raclette to Belgian guests, and best of all, I got to become friends with a young Frenchman and a young Swedish woman, and it was all because of French. A few years later, I ended up in Seattle, where I had a job at Mitsubishi, and I gained a new perspective on beauty. A Japanese husband will rarely say, "I love you" to his wife, because for him, what is unstated is as beautiful as what is stated. Inspired by Doué Balfa's music, I went to Louisiana and learned that the Cajuns play hard, and of course they love to laisser les bon temps rouler. And I studied the Acadian dialect there, which is Cajun French. And Mr. Sheck Snyder, yes, it's a German name, but he is Cajun, helped me remember my own German roots while he was sharing his Cajun culture and German culture with me, and telling me where I could find people to interview in French. Studying Cajun dialect means studying the Acadians, and of course it meant another trip back to France. I was glad to go back to France. And in Nantes I discovered this tableau in the Rue des Acadiens, and this is a tableau that depicts the refugees who were waiting to go to Louisiana following their exile. Going to France, you have to eat good food. La gastronomie helped take me away from the tuna helper that I grew up with like my dad. And I learned to put the bread on the table and to drink wine. And bouillabaisse is always good, whether it's in the Port in Marseille or in Paris. Because of my having studied the history of the French language, it all came to life much more for me when I was in Orange in the south of France, and I could imagine Roman soldiers and Roman families going to watch a performance in this ancient theater of Orange. Related to that, outside of Paris in Saint-Denis, there's the Basilique, and very famous historic French characters, personages, are buried there. Without Pépin-le-Bref, without Claude Gusteau, instead of learning French, we might be learning a modern Latin or some of the Germanic languages of the Visigoths. And of course, French is closely related to Italian, so hey, let's go to Italy. In Milano, I walked into the tourism office and thinking in French, I said, "Posso essere in italiano?" Thinking, I was asking if I could try in Italian, only to discover halfway across the piazza that I'd asked if I could be in Italian. And if you're fortunate like me, you can share your passion with younger people who are discovering language, discovering the world, and you take them to Quebec, and if they're from Maine, they may discover their own roots as a result. Plus good food, always la gastronomie. And living in Maine, I discovered that Marguerite Yourcenar, one of the, not one of, but the first author, female author, was elected to the Académie Française, lived just down the road in Northwest Harbor. So this is her house where she spent the last 25 or 30 years of her life, La Petite Plaisance. And Jules Verne is quoted as saying, nothing could surprise an American, except perhaps a 3-story mechanical elephant inspired by his works that can carry 35 passengers. And appreciating the fine arts and culture means not only that which is famous and popular and housed in museums, but walking down the street you can understand public art and beauty. This is a very touching poem that is about domestic violence, and I would not have been able to relate to that if I hadn't learned French. And whether it's Milano, India, or Paris, clothing is always very beautiful. Textiles are a part of the art, and you can always gain a certain je ne sais quoi, because le foulard, whether in India or France, is required. And through my interest in French, I became interested in languages in general and connected with a colleague in India, Professor Rao, who invited me to give lectures on my French studies taking place in Maine, my interviews with Franco-Americans, and I could give a lecture there. And had I not gone to India, I never would have discovered the sights and sounds and smells that are so typical of that part of the world, not to mention the very modest garments of the women as they work in the fields that are supposed to be very modest, and yet the flowing clothes and bright colors really draw your attention to them. And to quote Jules Verne again, ce n'est pas mon chemin qui me sorry. Je ne poursuis pas mon chemin, c'est mon chemin qui me poursuit. I don't follow my path follows me. Languages open doors and gates to the humanities. Thank you.